Afternoon, gentlemen.
Hello there.
Or is that morning?
Nice to see you.
This experiment in broadcasting is proven to be a little bit more fraught than we expected, I think. But the idea really was to do a hangout from MIPIM to, to use social media as a form of getting the message across, the conversation that we have. I'm Terry Crawford of Forcia.
Alec Howard for Legg and Partners.
Mark Legg, Crofton Design.
So, because we're so with it with social media, Google Plus technology as a whole, we thought we'd sit down here in the sunshine, as you can sort of see through a reflection in a mirror.
We're having it beamed in.
Beamed in. Really want to talk about, maybe a few of the challenges that we're all facing in getting business, in actually doing business. Mainly, obviously, London focused, as that would be our business location. Really, Alec, what would you think so far? What's your thoughts on the event?
Well, I would like to say it's one of the challenges, of course, is networking, and networking is a lot easier when it's in a relaxed environment, and I find that a lot easier than where we are at the moment than in London, the pressures of time and travelling around the city, and so it's one challenge certainly.
To get everyone in the same place.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the part of it as well. That's the beauty of it, is it? When you get everybody in the same place, you can meet a lot more people in a very short space of time. You can and you can introduce your connections to other people's connections and vice versa, and the whole thing is just this big melting pot of connecting. I mean, they always say MIPIM is connecting the world in terms of property, but specifically London, you can get around and see and speak to so many more people in such a short space of time. Despite doing it as a 20-hour day.
And how do you see the business going? Like, as we're optimistic of new business and of the potential of 2014 as opposed to the last number of years.
Well, there's a lot more enthusiasm around, isn't there, at the moment? I think when we were here last year, people were starting to talk about how much better things are going to be and how much more optimism and quite confidence there is in the market. And now I think that's starting to happen. I think you can see that from the amount of people here. That we come to MIPIM 3-4 years ago, it was noticeably less populated, but now it's almost back to the good old days of 2007-06, when it was absolutely packed.
Because I think the challenges that sort of we faced back then are going to re-erect. The fact that we have to resource projects and actually build the projects out and get them designed and get them onto site, get them finished.
Well, there's that boom or bust thing, isn't there? The bubble grows and it just goes pop. But I think because there's a lot more caution around still. I can't believe 2008. It's 5-6 years ago when it all happened. So people are still quietly cautious. So people aren't going back. You never go back to the silly old days, do you? It always just calms down and becomes a lot more sensible. But I think a lot of the challenges we're getting now is that people expect a lot. I mean, in a nutshell, I think there's still the expectation to get a lot in a short space of time. So we're doing more work for less money quicker. And that has been pretty tough over the last 5 years, and I don't think that is sustainable.
Yeah.
So that's certainly got to change. I don't know if you've suffered the same sort of thing.
Certainly. But one of the challenges we're finding at the moment, actually, is of course is human resource. We're finding it difficult to find guys of the calibre to work these jobs out.
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to need to find ways of, like, much as this little experiment has proven, to find ways of getting technology to work. And if you look at the simple thing like no Wi-Fi, the stress that'll cause on something like this, never mind actually trying to build projects, be able to see the information. Like, I think that's something that's going to have to, it's going to have to be perfected so that, the jobs can be built at the speed you talk about. To find ways of, getting things circulated and so on. Like, because we're trying to embrace technology as much as anything, but it's not our area of expertise. But there's BIM, you have the cloud, and lots of other sort of features that we're really going to be forced to use, and and actually really use those to our advantage, because the old ways of paper really will not be able to live up to the speed of project, turnover from design to to construction and so on, to handover.
But it's always got to be the principle that you've got to use technology as your slave to make things better and quicker and more efficient, as opposed to being a slave to technology,
Yes.
as this morning's technical
Yeah.
issues define. That's what it's got to be, and people do quite often end up being the slaves of technology. We were talking the other day about the whole idea about certainly how people draw and how people design. The whole process of design is that mind to hand to a piece of paper connection, and if you're trying to do that on a computer, I think potentially you're losing a level of that creative spark, that creativity. So you've got to use it as your tool to make your life more efficient, but you can't, as I say, let that be the goal in its own right.
Yeah.
So use things appropriately. It's always the analogy of getting on your bike and riding it as opposed to running beside it, pushing it, isn't it? It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, or falling off it. Yeah, like what we do, because I think like obviously we've got a diverse mix between contracting, design from an engineering point of view, and from an architecture, more creative side of things, sort of here in this mix. But like, how do we work better together to become more efficient? Like, obviously, for contractors not to spend your fees in changing things for change's sake, or like, or us getting the information that we need sort of the first time. Does the model work for that? Does the model work for that as it stands?
Well, I think that life has changed, hasn't it, over the last 15, 20 years probably. But once upon a time it was the us and them mentality, and it was the design team and it was the contractors team. And there was a great deal of mistrust between the two. Contractors always trying to rip off the design and do it as cheap as possible, and in some ways everyone was feeling a little bit disingenuous that you weren't delivering what you were being asked to deliver. But I don't think the world's like that anymore. We are now part of a team. It is teamwork, and we all bring something to the table, don't we? We've all got something to contribute to the process, whether it's the ability to build it in a slightly different way because it's better, quicker, more efficient, or bringing that design vision to the table.
Perhaps events like this actually help in building up that trust and sort of getting to know each other's strengths and
Well, yeah, I think that's right. And we've got a contractor, architect, and engineer all lined up here, which just sort of demonstrates that. But yeah, I think the world is moving rapidly. And I think when you get into the likes of BIM, it's always this argument about who manages the BIM model, who takes that ownership and that responsibility. Is it the designers with the design responsibility? Is it the contractor who probably gets some of the biggest benefits out of running it in that way, things like clash detection, etc. So, and that's a whole separate debate maybe with people who really know more about these technologies than maybe we do.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
But you put that together as the technology of the BIM model, and that in itself is technology that's reflecting and illustrating that more team approach. We're all
striving for.
We're on the same side at the end of the day, and we all have the same clients at the end of the day.
Exactly right. I think if we can sort of be efficient in doing things like, i.e. once in all cases, and designing it once and building it once and so on, and managing the process, I think we'll all be successful and be able to move on to the next project and keep a happy client in theory and build to the cost models and so on. So, like, I suppose that's the utopian.
I think one of the biggest issues at the moment is time pressure, isn't it? That, people expect things to be delivered extremely quickly, and there isn't the time these days to properly consider a design and properly design it, take that through, and then give it to you guys. If you're taking a traditional procurement route, then you need to give it that time. What happens is people tend to try and cut corners on stage E, detailed design in stage D, so the design isn't properly fixed before it's been put forward to be built. So all of a sudden you're trying to deliver a design that's only 75% there because the time hasn't been properly allowed to complete that design. Now that's fine if you're in a D&B environment where you're taking that design responsibility, but when you're not, there's an expectation that somebody at that point is going to finish this design off. And you're saying, not me, I'm not designing it, we're employing designers to do it. So then what we end up with is a gap, I think, in that process, which I think is more expensive at the construction phase when, you know, you guys have got guys sitting around on site doing nothing, but you've got to pay them. It's far cheaper, and there's far more insight, I think, or foresight in actually completing that design properly. It's cheaper to pay a design team than it is to have 100 guys on site with nothing to do.
Yeah.
And the prelims would reflect that in that instance. So yeah, I think big challenge is allowing the right amount of time to design things properly. It's short-term pain, long-term gain.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, albeit we're not experts in BIM or anything like that, but the potential of it seems to be that if you were to invest so much time in it, to hand that on to the, you know, the sub-consultants or the subcontractors, consultants, that we sort of all use that, embrace it, and use it for good. I think, you know, that would be, you know, what I would expect something like that to work. And, you know, I suppose if the information we can all rely on, then we can actually maybe recover the time that the developers and the clients are actually looking to achieve and getting schemes to PC. Really, yeah, so.
But it's also, I mean, that's a good point, because there's also this collaborative thing, isn't there? That, you know, I am no great expert in the technical aspects and some of the practical constructional aspects and buildability aspects of lots and lots of different trades. The guys that you employ, the trade contractors who install and build this every day, they're the ones who really know how to fix stone to walls and etc., because they do it all the time. So it's about using that expertise and that skill at the right time, and working to each other's strengths.
Yeah.
Not the old arrogant approach of saying, right, there you go, this, build that. The world's a much more complex and difficult place these days.
So sort of in summary, and getting back to the networking potential of the last day.
That was your first question, wasn't
it? How are we going to survive through this last day of this marathon that is Cannes, aka Mitman?
Little gaps, little rests, perhaps a little siesta. I think that's how I'd like to get to.
What a good idea. Pace yourself.
The sun at the pace.
Pace yourself. I think.
And more available Wi-Fi.
More Wi-Fi. Yeah. Less stress. Okay. Well,
thanks for that opportunity, Tim.
Thank you very much, and we'll look back on this with great anticipation to see how poor the sound is, or how good the picture is. I don't know. And perhaps in future have the
occasional glass of Bollinger, I think, helps as well.
Yeah. Okay. Let me stop this broadcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you.